Hey folks, it's Nate. It's time I got back to the drawing board, and tonight we're going to talk about Fables Book 2, Animal Farm. This is a very interesting book. This is where the conflicts of the story really start, and it's where the introduction of characters begins to taper off. It never quite leaves. Of course, there's dozens and hundreds and even thousands of fairy tales that can be introduced and whose cast can be used as cast for this series. And Bill Willingham was not shy about continually pulling in new characters. However, from this point forward, we're going to focus much more on the conflict. So what's happening here? Well, at the end of the last issue, or at the last volume, Rose Red was banished to the farm for community service because she faked her death and caused everyone a lot of troubles, and this is basically her punishment. Snow White is going with her because they're sisters, and Snow White feels like she's kind of turned her back on her sister. She's trying to reconnect, and she thinks this is a good chance. So where are they going? They're going to the farm, and the farm is where all the talking animal and even more magical fables kind of hang out, so they aren't seen by regular people and don't expose this magical world that's hiding from the mundane world to all the mundane people. So the two big conflicts that run through all of Fables are really introduced here. And those conflicts are the sibling rivalry between Snow White and Rose Red, and the conflict between the magical and the mundane, or between the Fables and the Mundi. Now, Snow White and Rose Red, that conflict waxes and wanes. Sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're enemies, sometimes they're just not really talking to each other, but it's always there. To the extent that Fables has a central character or characters, it's probably Snow White and Rose Red. They are important from the beginning to the end. And to a slightly lesser extent, the Big Bad Wolf, or Bigby Wolf, is also a central character, but he comes and goes with more regularity than Snow or Rose. For example, he's barely in this book at all. So here you can kind of see a shot of all of the different animal or otherwise magical fables that kind of hang out on the farm. Some of them you can recognize, like here we have one of the three little pigs. We have some Alice in Wonderland playing cards type people, Puss in Boots, of course, and others. I don't know who this walrus is. I believe, yeah, that's the cow that jumped over the moon. You can see the moon with him. So others are kind of hard to identify. The Sunflower Kid is just, I believe, a Bill Willingham original. He drew him. He liked drawing him, so he keeps turning up like a bad penny. And all of these people are stuck on the farm. It's Fabletown law. They have to be on the farm, so they can't be seen by the Mundi. And they don't like it. They don't like being cooped up there. They want to travel the world. They want to have adventures again. They just want to go beyond a couple of acres in upstate New York. What have you? Who can blame them? And as this book is named Animal Farm, you might guess that the pig is the bad guy, and that's true. This guy is leading a communist uprising. He's going to turn the power back to the people. He's going to overthrow the Fabletown government. They don't know all this at this point, of course, and he's backed. He represents the animals, and he's backed by Goldilocks, who is a communist agitator who is determined to take over Fabletown proper and create, the communist utopia. It's pretty great. Bill Willingham, in case you haven't figured it out yet, is a little more right-leaning than most people who work in comics. His art in this book is by Mark Buckingham. He's illustrated most of the story, and he is quite good. Here you see Boy Blue with his horn, holding down the fort in Fabletown. So, what kind of conflicts are there here? Well, there's, of course, the uncovering of the conflict between the animal fables and the human fables, and of course Goldilocks kind of egging that on. And there's the rivalry that's between Snow White and Rose Red. And a lot of that comes from the fact that Snow White is a popular fable. Popular fables, all fables are quasi-immortal. They don't age, although they die if they are killed. But if you are more popular, you have a lot of raw magical potential. You're physically stronger, you're more durable, you can bounce back from trauma better, that kind of thing. And Rose kind of resents that her sister got the better deal on that front. But on the whole, this conflict is about Rose coming out of that rut. She kind of does some things that work against Snow. She does some things that work for Snow. And by the end of this story, they've kind of reached an equilibrium, one that holds for most of the rest of the story. Well, that's not true. That holds for the next several volumes, at least. That allows Rose to get out of her sister's shadow, as it were, and become more her own character. But it doesn't really... I take that back. It puts them on good footing, but it puts them on uncertain footing. And like most sibling rivalries, there's a lot of genuine affection between Rose and Snow, but there's also the simple conflict that they are always associated with each other in a lot of people's minds, and they are trying very hard to get away from that without hurting each other or the people around them. Now, the Animal Farm part of the story, the Kindest Uprising, it's kind of funny. It has some good tension to it. There's some good action beats. We see several of the more, quote, monstrous, unquote, fables in action. Snow White enlists the aid of some giants and a dragon in order to put down the revolt. That's pretty cool to see. But story-wise, Animal Farm, it's a little weak. It's an inaugural adventure for introducing the plot. It does really emphasize a lot of the lengths the fables have to go to keep themselves hidden, the kind of resources they have to spend in order to keep themselves hidden. It is not easy to disguise a giant or a bridge troll as a regular person, and they can only do it for so many people. So there's limited resources to go around. Look at this. Here's a shot of the giants and the dragon, by the by. But you can see these people. You can't hide them. They can't sneak around town. It's very hard to make a way for them to blend with human society, and that's just the way it is. Nobody likes it, and over time, an equilibrium with the farm is found that does kind of let people get some freedom without exposing the fables to too much danger from the Mundi. So this story is a good introduction to the concepts of the Fable Mundi dynamic, which is also important in some stages of the story down the line. Overall, this is an okay story. It's fun from the point of view that it builds up the world, and it has some pretty funny characters. Goldilocks is she's just nutty. She's fun whenever she crops up in the story, and she does really skewer the far left Antifa types. So if you've ever wanted a comic book that does that, here it is, published in 2003. So yeah, it's pretty good. It's certainly not in the top 5 or top 10 of Fable storylines, but don't let that stop you from checking it out if you're interested. Anyway, that's all I have to say on that. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, well, there's a like button and subscribe button down below. Use them as you see fit, and I'll talk to you later.